Hello, horror fans, and welcome to the season one finale of the Script to Screen podcast, where we delve into the spine tingling world of horror cinema. Each week, we look at the scariest scenes, unmask the deeper meanings behind your favourite horror films, and explore the psychology of fear that keeps us coming back for more.
From script analysis to scene breakdowns, we're going to be dissecting your favorite horror movies to see just what makes them tick. So whether you're a seasoned horror aficionado or just starting to explore the genre, join us as we unravel the spine-tingling stories that haunt the silver screen.
I'm Will.
And I'm Lee.
As always, Lee, it's great to be back. Really good to see you, buddy. So what have you been watching this week?
Likewise, pal, likewise. This week I checked out Lee Wannell's Wolfman. And I don't think it quite reached the heights of his previous masterwork, The Invisible Man, but I still found it a pretty good fun watch. Although, if I'm being really honest, a few of the actors didn't really pull it off for me.
Okay, I'm still interested to see that one. I haven't seen The Invisible Man though yet.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, am I right in saying that there was some controversy over the titular Wolfman's appearance in this one?
Yeah, basically there was actually quite a few complaints, mainly I think because one didn't go with like a traditional werewolf design, but to be honest, I kind of applaud him for that. His lycanthropes definitely stood out from the rest of the pack, and some of the camera work, like in the shot and sound design in it, was just masterfully designed. It was so good.
Oh, dude, I can't. Yeah, I did see the trailer when I was in the cinema last, and I thought it looked quite interesting. I wasn't sure that I could quite have the stomach to face it in the cinema, but maybe on the small screen I can I could get involved in that one. But certainly, yeah, hopefully we'll check that out in the future, Lee.
Yeah, I'd love to put that script out, guys, and the Invisible Man as well, because I really want to cover that. And yeah, we'll cover it. We'll cover it guaranteed. But anyway, my brother, how about you? Anything good on your watch rota this week?
Yeah, so this week, for me, it was another one of those Dirt in the Gate screenings. I managed to catch Fire Walk with Me, so the Twin Peaks prequel from the recently departed David Lynch, obviously. Such a shame to see sort of Mr. Lynch passing away. I think a true cinematic originally for me.
Yeah.
But it was such a treat, dude. It's some really interesting choices in the film. As always with David Lynch, and it was a packed screening, so it was really really enjoyable atmosphere in there.
Sounds awesome, dude. I gotta admit, and I may sort of like, make some enemies here. I'm kind of 50-50 on Lynch. I
Yeah,
love the guy as a human being. He was a top bloke, absolutely fantastic. But sometimes, for me, his films go a little bit too off the wall.
yeah.
I think we and you have spoken about this before, but I swear to God, he just has like this big kind of wheel of fortune on the wall with all these just like random plots and occurrences. And I swear to God, sometimes he just kind of just spins this wheel. It's like, oh, okay, like evil midgets. Yeah, okay, we'll put that in there. And like
It's a
spins
mix
it
and
again.
match.
It's like grotty person behind a Burger King. Yeah, we'll chuck that in there too. What the hell? But yeah, it's just sometimes goes a little bit too off the wall for me. I like to watch a film and then have some sort of idea what the film was about afterwards.
Yeah, that's
You
not
know,
necessarily Lynch.
yeah, maybe that's just me and my simplistic film tastes. Who knows? Who
That
knows?
sounds like a good idea, though. Maybe I should employ that for my plotting.
Yeah, the wheel of plotting. I like that. Oh dear. So what's on the table for dissection this week, my man?
Well, Lee, this week in our season one finale, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the 1988 classic, The Blob.
Nice. How many times are you going to get that season finale bit in tonight, you think?
I think as many as I can because it just sounds so awesome. Season finale.
I can't argue that. It sounds great.
So, directed by Chuck Russell and released on August 5th, 1988, The Blob had a dismal time at the box office, Lee, making only $8,248,524, and that is off a $10 million budget.
God damn it, that sucks.
Yeah, so that pretty much killed any sequel or franchise hopes for this one, although there is talk of a modern remake in the works, so fingers crossed.
Oh, fingers and toes, man. Fingers and toes. We're going to be taking an in-depth look at the film and comparing it with a copy of the second draft of the script written by Frank Darabont and Chuck Russell, dated 1986 and weighing in at a bicep curling 107 pages.
Yeah, now Frank Darabont. Now that's going to be a name I'm sure that rings a lot of serious bells for our listeners, Lee.
As it should, as it should. Mr. Darabont is a Oscar-nominated screenwriter who has written some of the greatest screenplays ever committed to film, including The Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, and The Mist, as well as a few lesser-known genre classics like The Fly 2 and Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Yeah, hell of a resume. So what about Chuck Russell?
Chuck Russell is mainly known as a writer for his co-author credits on Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and The Blob, but his directional career has some serious heavy hitters like The Mask and The Scorpion King.
Yeah, loved The Mask. Scorpion King, not so much. But The Mask is great. Okay, let's get into this much underloved gem as we take a gooey plunge into The Blob. In a quiet American town, a mysterious meteor crash unleashes an insatiable, amorphous alien blob that devours everything in its path. As panic spreads and authorities struggle to respond, a local outcast and the girl next door must unite to destroy the all consuming threat before their entire community and even the entire world, Lee, is taken off the menu for good. So we open on planet Earth and slowly, deliberately, we draw closer and closer until we find ourselves in a quiet American town. But it's too quiet. The streets are abandoned. The stores are closed on what should be a busy summer's day. A sign reads, Think snow, avalanche shooters.
Yeah, to quote Lisa Simpson, I know those words, but that sign makes no sense.
I'm struggling. Honestly, I'm struggling with that as well, to be honest. So maybe a warning that gunshots could trigger an avalanche, possibly.
Possibly, but if that was the case, why not just have a sign saying, Beware, gunshots may cause avalanche?
That would seem more logical, Lee. But listen, man, if we're going off on this, we're going off on tangents this early. I think it doesn't bode well for us.
Yeah, I think we're still going to be here this time tomorrow, I think. Okay, okay, good point. Focus, back to the story.
Okay, so a lone cat stalks the abandoned streets. It's eerie yet strangely peaceful. Even the church and graveyard are empty. But wait, the sound of people, a football game. The entire town is at a damn football game, Lee.
Oh man, what a great little fake out to open with. I mean, this script has a few such moments that play really, really well with the audience's expectations. In fact, this whole movie is a masterclass in well executed fake outs. This opening scene plays out just like in the script. It's rich in detail and only takes up half a page, whereas on screen, we are currently nearing the 4 minute mark.
Yeah, so it kind of throws the 1 page equals 1 minute theory out the window, doesn't it?
I always see that as more as kind of an average, taking the entire film into consideration. Some pages will be shorter, some longer, but it should roughly balance out in the end at 1 minute per page. So it's definitely a good rule to work to, I think. We should check in around the end of Act One, I think, and compare the page and the minute count if you're down for that.
Yeah, that's a cool idea, man. Let's do that. So back in the film, and we're quickly introduced to cheerleader Meg Penny, twerking away as cheerleaders do, and it's none other than a young Shawnee Smithley.
aka Amanda from the Saw franchise. Interesting factoid for you. It was her role in this movie that led to James Wan casting her in Saw, as apparently she was a childhood crush of his.
Yeah, and who's to blame him, Lee? Who's to blame him?
True.
Local hero Paul Taylor scores a touchdown and shares a look with the cheerleader. There's some obvious chemistry there, I think.
Yep, hormones are raging, pal. Hormones are raging.
Paul and his buddy Scott take a timeout on the sidelines, and Scott encourages his best bud to make a move on Meg. But Paul's waiting for when the time is right. Now, after getting back on the field and being sent crashing through a table on the sidelines, it seems the time is now, Lee, and he asks the concerned Meg on a date.
Oh, how cute. I mean, this plays out largely as written, although it does skip out on Paul scoring the initial touchdown of the game, and Scott is a tad more vulgar in his vocabulary.
And we're off to the nearby woods now, where we are introduced to local bad boy Brian Flagg, played by the wonderful Kevin Dillon.
And this guy has it all. Leather jacket, smoking a cig, swigging a beer, rides a motorbike, and rocks a badass mullet. I think if only he wasn't named Brian, he would be a certified badass. One thing that's made almost obnoxiously clear is the fact that this guy does not give a flying fuck.
Yeah, he may not be certified, but he still seems pretty badass to me, Lee. And the hair, I mean, his hair is truly astonishing. If you haven't seen it, I think you really need to check out this guy's hair. So, as young badasses do, he's looking to jump a broken bridge on his motorcycle. Why? Because it's coolly. That's why.
I know it is cool. I mean, I really love the way how the way he's revving the motorbike is intercut with the crowd cheering the football game.
Yeah, it really does get the blood pumping. And it looks like he's going to nail the jump until his bike malfunctions and he eats dirt in spectacular fashion. Although he does earn a round of applause from the local can collecting hobo.
I mean, this is a great little character moment for me. When Flag kind of smiles at the hobo, it's like he's saying, yeah, that was pretty stupid, but kind of awesome too. It's a good way to endear us to him, and a pretty great character introduction all round, I think.
Yeah, it's quite elaborate, isn't it? Do you have any thoughts on why?
Well, we see straight away he is kind of a direct contrast to Paul. I mean, he's an outcast. When everyone else is at the football game, he's alone in the woods and seemingly wouldn't have it any other way. It's not a small jump he's attempting either, so there's definite risk of serious injury. So it shows he's brave, maybe a little foolhardy. And the fact that he doesn't chew out the hobo after he fails tells us that he's not arrogant either. And it also keys us into the fact that he's reckless and doesn't seem to think things through before he acts.
Yeah, and he hasn't said a word either, has he?
Yeah, great point. To quote a greatly overused screenwriting adage, show, don't tell.
Yeah, absolutely. So off now to the local diner where Sheriff Herb Geller is enjoying the quiet and getting a little flirtatious with Fran, the waitress. Herb is played by horror icon Jeffrey DeMunn.
As soon as I saw Darabont's name on this, I knew it would only be a matter of time before Jeffrey turned up.
Yeah, everybody has their go-to guys, right? And you couldn't do much better than good old Jeffrey.
Very true, very true. I mean, for those of you wondering what we're yapping on about here, Jeffrey DeMunn is a regular in Darabont's work. I mean, the two have collaborated on such titles as The Green Mile, The Mist, and The Walking Dead, to name a few.
Yeah, he's great in this. Well, it seems the young uns aren't the only ones scoring dates, as Herb convinces Fran to meet him after work.
Get in, Herb.
Yeah, get in, Herb. So it's a lovely little moment. But something tells me the romantic aspirations of this town are in for a particularly gooey climax.
Oh, dude, you did not just go there.
I'm sorry, I'll leave the puns to you in the future. So Flag rolls into town on the back of a pickup, and just as Herb exits the diner, it's clear the young man is no fan of the sheriff as he takes cover nearby. The eagle-eyed lawman has spotted him though, and offers the young chap a friendly yet barbed warning. He's old enough for the big boy prisons now, so he needs to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, it's another great little character moment here for both Flag and Herb. It's all smiles and politeness, but it's clear they do not like each other one little bit. It also drops some backstory of Flag having previous troubles with the law and being sent to juvie.
So, with the sheriff out of the picture for now, Flag heads to the local garage where he convinces the owner, Moss, to lend him the tools he needs to repair his bike.
Yeah, some really good expositional dialogue here about the town. Moss informs us that it's a snow town, and he's on a tight schedule to repair all the snow-related vehicles before a potential snowfall. And it seems the town is kind of almost on its last legs due to a few dry winters, and it needs that cold white powder badly. Also, I want to point out another great little character moment for Flag that isn't actually in the script, as he just kind of offhandedly patches up his torn jeans with some duct tape. So he's obviously used to scraping by and fixing things up. And I'd wager those are probably the only pair of jeans that guy has.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. So it's night now as we venture back into the woods to find the hobo, known as the can man in the script. You guessed it, crushing cans. No doubt to earn a penny on recycling them later. His canine companion's ears prick up as it senses danger. Moments later, a flaming meteor hurtles from the sky and crashes into the nearby trees.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do the sensible thing and notify the authorities and not something stupid like poke it with a stick.
We'll no doubt find out momentarily, Lee. But first, we're back in town with Paul and Scott as they enter the local pharmacy. Scott borrows some money to buy some condoms or Trojans for his date while Paul waits in the wings.
Yeah, again, the script goes all out on making Scott a lecherous creep with the following brilliantly disgusting line.
Scott, That's right. I understand women like Vicky. They're like frying pans. You got to get them hot before you can put the meat in. Scott is such a douchebag, Lee.
I know,
It's
it's
such
just
a
great.
douchebag. So Scott is put on the spot though as the delightfully creepy Reverend Mika arrives, and in a flash of guilt-fed inspiration, Scott claims he's buying the condoms.
Ribbed.
Yes, ribbed condoms for Paul, who intends on taking advantage of some poor naive girl. The pharmacist looks like he'd rather just shoot poor Paul and states that he doesn't need condoms, he needs a muzzle. Poor Paul, right? Poor Paul.
Yeah.
Well, enough of that, Lee. We're back in the woods where the can man has located the fallen meteor, and within the piping hot crater, a pod of bubbling pink goo.
He's going to poke it with a fucking stick, isn't he?
Sure enough, the hapless hobo does indeed probe the pulsating pustule with a tree branch, and after holding it above his face for a moment, tries to discard the gooey guest, only for it to ooze up the stick and attach itself to his hand.
It's a really well written scene, and the smash cut at the end just elevates it to peak cinema. Check it out.
The can man grabs a fallen branch and extends it down into the smoking core of the crater, giving it a tentative poke. There is a gentle tug on the stick, like the nibble of a trout. He slowly pulls the stick out. Clinging to the end of it is a weird, gelatinous mass about the size of a fist. Its transparent surface steams and sparkles in the crater's glow. The stick is pointed down. The mass does not drip off. Instead, it seems to flex and draw into itself. The old man steps back, uttering a soft gasp of wonder. He turns the stick this way and that, admiring his discovery, fascinated. Close up, his hand. Suddenly, the mass shoots up the length of the stick, like a striking cobra, engulfing his hand to the wrist. Cut to interior, Meg's house, night. Extreme close-up on a quivering square of cherry jello. A young boy's mouth appears at one corner and slurps up the entire square with one mighty suck. Ah, man, that transition just makes the scene, doesn't it, Lee?
It really does, doesn't it? I mean, it's a great example, I think, of how you can link together certain scenes to enhance one or both of them.
Yeah, so tell us more about that, Lee.
Well, if we just cut to the kids eating waffles while their parents were talking, technically it'd be pretty much the same scene. But by going for the gooey close up of that kid slurping the jelly, it triggers an initial gross out reaction, as mentally we're still processing that last scene. But when we realize it's a fake out, it becomes almost a laugh out loud moment instead, in what could have just been a boring transitional scene cut.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So we are introduced to Meg's little brother Kevin and his buddy Eddie, who accidentally lets slip that they're going to try and get into a slasher movie, Lee, after your own
Yeah.
heart.
Oh yes, it's a young version of me. There's a fantastic quote from Eddie here that just sums up how people view adult content in movies, which goes, Eddie, this guy in a hockey mask chops up a few teenagers, but don't worry, there's no sex or anything bad. And if that doesn't sum up parental viewing opinions in the 80s, nothing does.
Yeah, I mean, arguably a viewpoint that still holds true today, right?
Yeah, very true. In the script, we are introduced to Meg's baby sister, but sadly, the infant did not survive the transition to the screen, and Kevin is her only sibling.
So speaking of Meg, she's calling for her mother about a pink sweater. Seems it shrunk in the wash to become about the size today's teens would wear. All is not lost though, as Mum offers to loan Meg her cashmere sweater, to which Meg is understandably elated.
A cashmere sweater.
A cashmere sweater, Lee. But that's put on hold as Paul turns up. He meets Mum and Kevin as he leaves for a sleepover, though the boys' tricky coat seems to have a habit of the zip catching. A possible setup for later, maybe.
I think so.
Anyway, hold the phone as we are beholden to Meg in her cashmere sweater wearing glory, Lee.
Cashmere sweater.
Yes, it looks absolutely awful.
It really does. It really does. In the script, though, it's not a cashmere sweater, but an Ann Taylor blouse.
Yeah, I've no idea what that is. Anyway, Meg then introduces Paul to her dad, who, if you haven't guessed it by now, is none other than the angry pharmacist from earlier.
Ribbed.
Of course, it's ribbed. That's so easy. I mean, you could see this coming. This scene just cracked me up, dude, when I watched it.
Ah, no, right. I mean, for what some may dismiss as just another 80s remake, this script is airtight, man.
Oh, it's so beautifully crafted. It's absolutely wonderful.
There are a few minor changes in the scene, a crash from the kitchen draws mum away rather than a phone call, and there's some minor dialogue changes. Worst of all, there's no ribbed line from Meg's dad.
It's a criminal omission, I think. But back into the woods now, and Flag is finishing the last of the repairs to his bike when he hears something moving in the trees. There's a great moment where he turns on the headlight and moves the beam through the trees to see if there's anything lurking, but it seems he's alone. Relax. Jump scare! Can Man leaps at him, wielding his hatchet in what appears to be a frenzied attack, only to try and cut his own hand off, Lee.
Oh, nice. No sooner has he made that first chop when the blob slithers up over the cut, seemingly enjoying the taste of blood.
Sinister. So Flag tries to stop the man from further injuring himself, but the viciously violated vagrant flees into the woods.
The script differs in that Flag has just dragged his bike out of the gully into a field, but the best part here is the description of the blob and how it is feasting on Can Man's arm. I'll see if I can do it justice. Brian raises the old man's shattered, mangled hand into frame, revealing the thick, oozing mass that is slowly eating his flesh. The organism is no longer perfectly clear. It has become a translucent pink from the blood it has absorbed. The Can Man's fingers are skeletal, the surrounding tissue gone. The axe wounds have already been engulfed by the ravenous slime. Not a drop of blood has escaped. Man, that's great. The main takeaway here for me is that the blob is pink throughout most of the film simply because it is full of blood.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Gross, but awesome.
Mm. Darabont and Russell have said that they basically saw the blob as kind of like an inside out stomach, with the acid burning, melting, and devouring anything that it touches.
Yeah, that is genuinely horrifyingly. We rejoin Meg and Paul on their date as they drive through the forest. It seems the misunderstanding with her dad was somewhat resolved, but Paul swears vengeance on Scott, as he should.
Mhm.
From nowhere, Can Man runs into the road and is struck by their car. A moment later, Flag dashes from the trees. There's some jostling for the alpha position between Paul and Flag before they all agree to all take the afflicted man to hospital.
There's a great moment from Flag as he drapes his arm over the back of Meg's chair.
Yeah, and you know he's just doing that to piss Paul off. At the clinic, our three reluctant heroes help the ailing Can Man inside, only to be met with the most nonchalant nurse in history.
He seriously does not give a single fuck, does she?
Abs- Absolutely no fucks to give, Lee. Although she begrudgingly has the old hobo taken to a private room. Probably more because she doesn't want to have to smell him than anything, any sense of compassion.
Speaking of which, we get another little scene of Flag showing the old man some compassion, which doesn't go unnoticed by Meg.
Flag then takes his leave. As he rightfully points out, these guys don't give a shit about explanations, but states that Paul knows where to find him if he needs to.
Hmm. There's a little extra dialogue can be found in the script, including a nice moment where Paul apologizes to Flag for being so aggressive, and the young outcast replies that it's all cool. It was a stressful moment, is all. And I think it was a really nice character beat for both young men. I mean, the expectation in most films would be for one of them to be an asshole, but they're both decent guys, just from different sides of the track, as it were.
Yeah, and the movie is making it quite hard to kind of discern who the main character is, right? I guess it's going for a kind of ensemble approach with the two men from different lifestyles.
Stick a pin in that for a minute, and we will circle back to it.
Okay, okay. Well, sometime later, Meg and Paul are still waiting in the clinic. Paul heads off to fetch Meg a soda, but spots the unattended Can Man in a side room. Something weird is happening, though, Lee. The blanket covering the man seems to be pulsating. So something is definitely off, and Paul runs to fetch the doctor.
Methinks the proverbial slime is about to hit the fan.
Oh, yes. The doctor whips back the blanket only to reveal Can Man's half melted corpse beneath Lee. Paul dashes for the nearest phone and calls the cops, as you would. When he tells them Flag was involved, it rings alarm bells for Sheriff Herb, who sets out immediately. There's a classic "it's behind you" moment, and we see the now much larger Blob crawl onto the ceiling behind Paul, only to drop onto the hapless teen, who barely manages a single scream. Alerted by the scream, Meg runs to Paul, who is now completely engulfed by the blob, melting slowly as it drags him toward the open window.
Man, I mean, seriously, how good does this shit look?
Yeah, it's quite revolting to be sure. Good may not be the word that I'd use, but it is pretty revolting. So Meg grabs Paul's exposed hand and tries to pull him free, but the limb just tears off in her hands and she falls against the door frame and knocks herself out.
Yeah, a bit of a hapless damsel moment there, which doesn't happen in the script. We just cut on her screaming. Also, she better not get any of that alien goo on her mom's cashmere sweater.
Oh, God forbid.
I mean, can we just talk for a second, though, about how good the blob effects are here?
Oh, they're seriously impressive, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if and when that remake happens, you know it's all going to be CGI bullshit that's probably going to age awfully. I mean, this movie is nearly 40 years old and it still looks amazing. Apparently, this scene was achieved by making two see-through quilts filled with pockets of blob goo and dragging them over Paul in different directions. And it's the first time we really see the grown blob in all its glory, and it is one hell of a first impression.
Oh, dude, I have to say, I love these little old school, SFX kind of tidbits. It's so great to hear how they achieve these things. I think it's great. So that said, the Blob's first impression is better than the one Paul made on Meg's dad, to be sure. So the dual protagonist ensemble theory is well and truly out the window.
Yeah, well and truly. And I'm going to put the end of Act One here. What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly where I had it, dude. Now, lest we forget, we are going to compare the page and minute count.
Oh, yeah, I had forgotten. We are on page 30 of the script.
And a little over 27 minutes into the film. So make of that what you will. So Herb and the rest of the police force arrive on the scene. Paul's body is nowhere to be found, and it doesn't look like anybody is buying Meg's explanation. Herb is pissed, though, and he wants to nail whoever killed Paul. To which his deputy notes flag in a nearby police cruiser. Maybe we already got him. The deputy is played by Paul McCrane from ER.
Most of us will know him as that guy that got melted by toxic waste in RoboCop.
Yeah, I was getting to that.
Best death scene ever.
Oh, you totally stole my thunder.
Sorry, my mouth engages quicker than my brain sometimes. Most of the time, actually. Anyway, in the script, we get a little more detail about Paul's remains, or at least what was recovered, and the deputy is a lot younger and blacker.
So we head now to Makeout Point in the woods where sleazeball Scott is trying to score with the lovely Vicky. As Scott heads to the boot of his date rape mobile to ply the nearly comatose Vicky with more alcohol, we catch a glimpse of something approaching through the bushes.
Yeah, so I need to call a brief timeout here. Vicky, for those who may not be aware, is played by former Playboy playmate and star of Under Siege and Baywatch, Erica Eleniak.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about childhood crushes earlier. When I first laid eyes on this young woman in a red swimsuit, slow-mowing down the beach, puberty hit me in the face like a fucking sledgehammer.
Yeah, I'm sure you were not alone in that respect, dude. So scumbag Scott heads back into the front seat to find Vicky seemingly passed out.
And I'm assuming he does the decent thing, of course, and drives her home.
Of course not, Lee. This was the 80s. As far as movies were concerned, getting a young girl blackout drunk was a valid seduction technique.
Fuck the 80s sometimes, dude.
Yeah, quite. So sleazy douchebag groper Scott takes Vicky's lack of response as an invitation and makes his move on the unresponsive girl's cleavage. But karma comes in gooey forms, Lee, as the groped mammary gland engulfs his hand and Vicky explodes into a slimy tentacled mass to devour the deserving Scott.
So, I mean, all uncomfortable rapiness aside for a second, this scene gives us some chilling insights into the blob itself.
Ah, okay, how so?
Well, I mean, it could have attacked Scott straight away, but it didn't. It consumed Vicky in a way that left her looking ordinary, externally at least, and waited for Scott to make contact. In other words, layman's terms, it set a trap. Coupled with how it killed Paul back at the clinic, it shows that the blob is, at least in its current size, primarily an ambush predator.
That's really disturbing.
Yeah, well, what's worse is that it infers the blob has some kind of intelligence, albeit limited. It's not just a mindless organism, it's a sentient creature.
Okay, so back at Meg's, and her parents don't believe her blob story, which is kind of understandable, I guess.
Yeah, it is a tough one to swallow, I'll give them that.
Meg decides to investigate on her own and sneaks out of her house under the cover of darkness just as the blob heads into a sewer grate that overlooks the town.
Again, the script just goes into loving detail when it comes to the titular blob, and we also get a scene with the alien goo devouring a hapless squirrel. Check it out.
Exterior, ridge, night, low angle. Scott Jeski's Impala is in the background, silently perched on the ridge above town. Steam rises gently from the smashed window. In the deep foreground, a dainty squirrel appears from a stand of tall trees, sniffing the air. It peeks skittishly through the underbrush at the car as if it's sensing something unnatural has taken place. Suddenly, the squirrel is yanked into the darkness with a squeal. Beat. The reeds slowly part and the blob slithers into view, the frantically struggling squirrel slowly being sucked into the diseased maw. The blob cuts a corrosive, smouldering trail through the shadowy underbrush as it slithers into the concrete drainage ditch. Scott's school ring glitters dully just under the surface of the slime as it vanishes into the sewers. Pan away to the lights of Morgan City, twinkling softly in the distance. So we rejoin Flag in the police station as he is interrogated by Herb and his deputy. Things could go better for sure, as Flag seems intent on riling the deputy up as much as he can.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's hardly one-sided here. The deputy is pretty out of line too.
He is very out of line, this deputy, I'll give you that. But in a moment that shows just why he's the sheriff, Herb orders the kid to be cut loose as they've got no evidence, no motive. And while he's not Flag's biggest fan, he doesn't believe him to be a killer.
Yeah, there's a little extra dialogue in the script, but nothing plot altering at all.
Have to say, Lee, Flag's line about being a broken man in this scene made me laugh out loud here, dude. Anyway, no sooner does Flag make it out of the cop shop when he is accosted by Meg, who had snuck away to bail him out. The notion isn't lost on Flag, but he's not in the mood for pleasantries and heads to the diner for something to eat. He and Fran share some playful banter, and she agrees to make him a sandwich. His relief is cut short as Meg barges in, and she's not taking no for an answer, Lee.
Yeah, I like the little moment between Fran and Flag. You kind of get the impression that she sees straight through his tough guy act, you know?
So Meg tells Flag what happened, but he doesn't believe her either. And he asks her if she's on drugs, which doesn't go down well. Meg storms off, but the diner is locked, and Flag hurries after her to apologize. He sits her back down and shares his sandwich. So a gentleman after all, Lee.
Yeah. More great character beats here. Flag again showing that deep down he's a decent guy. And I think as an audience, we are probably clearly invested in him now.
Yeah, I like the way they didn't just give him a big save the cat moment at the beginning and rather drip fed us these little insights into his character, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning we weren't supposed to know if Flag or Paul would be the male lead. And if they'd given us that big moment earlier on, it would have made it obvious. And, we'd have expected Paul to croak then.
Yeah, good points. Good points. The deputy searches the woods with a crew of volunteers, but comes up empty handed. And Herb decides to go check on Fran to make sure she's okay and explain why he's going to have to bail on their date. Back at the diner, Fran gives the kids some free dessert. Bless Fran, she's amazing. Before heading back into the kitchen. Seems the sink has blocked up, so George, the cook, sets to work with a plunger.
Yeah, there's no free dessert in the script. Instead, we go straight into the kitchen.
George isn't having much luck with the plunger and resorts to shoving his arm down the sinkhole.
Yeah, that is one big ass sinkhole. I mean, also, who else was expecting the old hand in the hole scare here?
Yeah, I'll have to raise my hand to that one. Yeah, we're waiting. We're waiting for it, but the attack doesn't come. At least not yet. George withdraws his arm safely and leans in for a closer look down the sinkhole. Bam! The blob lunges from the hole, engulfs the man's face, and drags him agonizingly into the sink. Alerted by Fran's screams, the two teens rush to help.
It is a brutal way to go as poor George is compressed down into the plug hole, and without a moment's respite, the blob erupts from the sink onto the ceiling and chases Meg and Flag into a nearby freezer.
Yeah, and if Flag didn't believe her before, he definitely does now. Looks like the blob will make short work of the flimsy wooden door shielding our heroes, but it suddenly recoils, seeming hurt by the intense cold.
Houston, we have a weakness.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Fran smashes a window and escapes into a back alley where she makes straight for a phone booth and tries to call for help.
Yeah, there's a neat little scene from the script that's missing here. Check it out.
Interior, diner. Fran is rattling the front door. It's locked. She's trapped inside. She turns back, looking around frantically, and sees a side window that looks out into the alley. She hurries over and tries to open it. It's hopelessly stuck. She strains against it, but it's no use. Suddenly she hears a sound behind her in the darkness. A chair scraping across the floor. She whirls around, breath caught in her throat, gazing into the darkness. Her POV. The diner is shadowy, dark, still. But then the tables and chairs at the rear of the diner begin moving slowly, drifting towards her as if caught in a gentle swell. A huge unseen presence is beneath them, coming her way. Fran, whimpering with panic, she picks up the nearest chair and hurls it through the window in an explosion of glass. Now back in the freezer, and things are getting chilly. Flag gives Meg his jacket.
Oh, how cliche of him. Hey, you know what I bet she wishes she was wearing right now?
Totally.
A cashmere sweater.
Fuck's sake, dude. I'm going to have to put up with this for the whole podcast. Well, poor Fran isn't having a good time either as the blob slowly envelops the phone booth. She calls the sheriff and asks for Herb, but poor Herb is already done for as we watch his half-digested remains smush against the glass.
Swear he looks directly at Fran here.
Yeah, I was just genuinely surprised they killed Damon's character off screen.
I think it's a case of defying audience expectations, maybe. I mean, as we've said before, this script nails that in so many ways.
Well, the bell tolls for poor Fran as the phone booth implodes and just annihilates her completely.
Damn. The script adds further insult to injury here with this little bit. Check it out. Looking directly down at Fran as all four sides of the phone booth explode inward at once and the blob engulfs her. On Fran, already melting, screaming silently within the red morass as the ghastly remains of Herb Geller entwine around her in a final lover's embrace.
Oh, that's so nastily, but oddly beautiful, I think.
Hmm.
Well, with the blob otherwise engaged, Meg and Flag take the opportunity to escape. Meanwhile, outside the diner, Reverend Mika witnesses the blob squeeze back into the sewers.
Interesting little script note here. On the page, we get a little reminder written in brackets that goes as follows: The preacher from the pharmacy scene. Now, to me, that's interesting as Mika was referred to by name back in that scene in the script, so I'm not sure why they felt the need to add that here.
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm not sure either. Like, my only thought was, with all that's happened and the characters introduced, they wanted to clarify who the Reverend was.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. Either way, the good Reverend heads into the diner to see if anyone needs help and comes across some frozen blob chunks outside the freezer, which he promptly scoops up into a jar. Meanwhile, Meg and Flag reach the sheriff's office, but all the cops are AWOL and the bewildered secretary is flooded with phone calls. She tells our teen heroes that the last she heard of Deputy Briggs, he was headed to Elkin's Grove, which Flag informs us is where he found the Can Man.
I think, to be fair, the can man found him.
True, found him with an axe. The duo drive out to the Grove where they find Briggs's police cruiser seemingly abandoned, and reluctantly they decide to search for him in the woods.
Yeah, cool little character beat for Meg here, as it's her that makes the choice to head into the dark woods. She may not have Flag's bad boy persona, but she is every bit as tough as he is.
Yeah, damn it. After some fruitless exploration, they come upon a blinding light in the sky. So, is this another meteor, Lee? Is it a UFO? No, it's a helicopter. And they find themselves accosted by an armed hazmat team led by seemingly friendly Dr. Meadows. The charming doctor fills us in on a little background exposition as we catch up with Deputy Briggs. They are here to contain a fallen meteor which may have brought an alien pathogen down to Earth, a similar fate to that which befell the dinosaurs, Lee.
Yeah, there is some trimmed dialogue here, but the final exchange between the kids and Meadows is particularly interesting in the script. I'll read it for you. Brian, you think your meteor brought some killer germ from outer space? Trimble, it's something I've expected and prepared for all my life. Brian, well, that meteor brought something, all right, but if it's a germ, it's the biggest son of a bitch you've ever seen. Meg, and getting bigger. Trimble freezes in his tracks, so does everyone within earshot. All attention goes to Meg and Brian. Then, softly, Trimble, would you care to enlighten me? This is of particular interest to me because this brief exchange, most of which is missing from the film, insinuates that until this point, Meadows and his team are not aware of the blob itself.
Yeah, that's cool. It would definitely have altered the dynamic a little, that wouldn't it? Anyway, back to the movie, and we jump to a teen couple making out by a campfire in the woods. But no, it's another fake out, Lee. We're in the movie theatre with Kevin and Eddie as they enjoy their R-rated movie.
Man, there are some real fucking gems in this movie they're watching too. Wait a minute, hockey season ended months ago.
It's hilarious little parodies, isn't it?
Parody, I'm invested, man. I want to see this movie now.
Only way you're going to see this, Lee, is if you make it, dude. Okay, so up in the projectionist room, the poor guy is suffering with the heat. He checks the air conditioning vent, but nothing's coming through. And upon closer inspection, he is attacked by the blob.
Blob cam.
Yeah, it's blob cam. Yeah, we haven't really had a blob's eye view creature cam yet, have we? So something that's long overdue, I think.
Can't beat a good creature cam for a cheap but effective scare.
The theatre manager heads up to check out the faulty aircon for himself, only to find the poor projectionist suspended from the ceiling, half melted and barely alive. At this point, the blob attacks with its gooey tentacles and drags the poor guy up to his doom, Lee. His scream is cleverly masked by that of the theatre audience.
But in the script, it's a little while before we get to this point, because after being accosted by the hazmat team, we move straight into the next scene from the film.
So, back with Meg and Flag as they are thanked by the doctor for their invaluable information about the organism.
Yeah, nobody actually calls it a blob in the film, I don't think.
Yeah, I definitely see why they cut the part where the doctor found out about the blob. I think this way, Flag and Meg's information now seems far less impactful, and the doctor comes across as far more an authoritative figure. Anyway, after some not so subtle persuasion, Meadows and his cronies bundle the kids into a truck headed back into town for quarantine. Though Flag is not thrilled about it, Lee.
Him and authority do not mix well, as we have learned.
No, they do not. Their impromptu imprisonment doesn't last long as Flag uses the socket wrench he pocketed earlier to open the back door of the truck. Meg won't leave though, as she has family in the town she has to get back to and accuses Flag of only caring about himself, to which we get the cracking retort, no one else ever volunteered for the job.
Oh, right in the feels, man, right in the feels.
Yeah, man. All this talk of family and loved ones is not something our rebellious loner can relate to, Lee.
Yeah. In the script, this is where we get the movie theatre scene from earlier, which plays out largely the same with the notable exception that the projectionist has a monkey.
I'm sorry, what?
A monkey.
Like an actual monkey?
An actual monkey.
Yeah, why would they cut that, Lee? Who doesn't love a good monkey?
Ugh, beats me. I mean, I'm guessing it wouldn't have been cost effective, plus animal handlers, insurance, or for a 30-second scene, maybe.
Yeah, but a monkey, Lee.
I know, man. I know I feel your pain here, but monkey or no monkey, at least we are now back in sync with the film. So why did they change the order of these scenes, do you think?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I mean, this could be something that just played better in the edit, but it could be they wanted the audience to be furnished with more information than the protagonists, putting Meg's, little brother in peril. Could be they didn't want to jump from the movie theater straight to Meg, finding out Kevin is not with her parents. Yeah, so I'm not sure. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think probably you hit it bang on the head with the info on Meg's brother. I think.
Cool. Okay, so back in town, and with all the townsfolk seemingly rounded up, Meg locates her parents only to learn Kevin is missing, Lee. He's missing!
Oh,
They quickly put two and two together, and Meg sneaks off to the movie theater to retrieve him.
yeah. I mean, these guys really do suck at enforcing a quarantine, don't they? I bet they were the same guys responsible for keeping COVID in China.
Oh, is that ice I hear cracking under your feet, Lee? Things kick off in the theatre as the blob attacks the audience. There's a cool shot of Meg running into the theatre as everyone else is running out.
Batman versus Superman Bruce Wayne shot.
Yeah, I don't think you can name a shot after a film that did it like 30 years before, Lee.
It's a Batman versus Superman shot now.
Okay, well, inside the theatre, it is pure chaos. We got strobe lights, we got screams, people running, and one poor girl half melted to the floor.
Yeah, if you're epileptic, you're gonna want to close your eyes for this one.
It looks so awesome, though.
Yeah, it does, it does. Not to mention the now massive blob literally yeeting people left, right, and center,
Thankfully, though, Meg is able to locate Kevin and Eddie.
who are trying to escape through the only locked door in the room.
Yeah, but they're only kids, dude.
Dude, it's not even subtly locked. There's a fucking massive padlock and chain on it. Like, it couldn't be more visually locked.
They are traumatized, panicked kids, dude.
It's an advert for natural selection, if you ask me.
Luckily for the boys, Meg is there to guide them to safety.
Through a nearby unlocked door.
They flee into the back alley, but Kevin's coat gets stuck in the door, Lee. Oh no, Lee, it's his dodgy zipper.
Told you, man, nothing is wasted in this film.
Barely escaping in time, the trio flee the alley into the sewers, but they're not out of the woods yet as gooey tendrils snake through the manhole cover and ensnare Meg's hair. With the acid already eating through her fragile follicles, she drops and tears herself free.
And the script gives us a little reminder about the faulty zip here. It reads, Kevin struggles with the zipper. It's stuck, just like when his mother helped him at home. Meg grabs the zipper and tugs with all her might, but it still won't budge.
Enough excitement for the moment as on screen we check back in with Flag, who has retrieved his bike and is sneaking through the woods when he comes across Dr. Meadows and his team investigating the meteor. Only it turns out it's not a meteor, Lee. It's a US satellite. And we learn the blob is the result of an experiment gone awry. Not only that, but we also overhear just what an asshat the seemingly pleasant Dr. Meadows is when he orders the blob contained in the sewers and that Meg and the boys are expendable. That son of a bitch.
Joe Seneca, who plays Meadows, does such a great job here. I've seen this movie countless times, and every single time I am genuinely won over by his good guy act.
You know, he seems like such a sweet old guy, right? Wouldn't harm a fly. Flag, however, is busted and held at gunpoint by one of Meadows' goons, but he is able to escape.
Using his trusty socket wrench.
Yeah, socket wrench. He's really getting his money worth out of that thing. So he revs up and rides for his life, but he's pursued by trigger-happy hazmat goons on quad bikes, no less, trucks, and even a helicopter, Lee. All seems lost until he spots, and you know it's coming, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
The broken bridge! Oh, yeah, we all knew it was coming, Lee. But god damn it, we're so in.
Come on, Flag.
Oh, yeah! He hits the jump and nails it perfectly, Lee. The truck wipes out into the ditch, and the helicopter, for some reason, gives up. And Flag takes a second look back and flips the bird. Yeah, it's perfectly.
Peak peak cinema right there. I mean, man, if we just had some pyrotechnics and an eagle crying out, this could have been the greatest scene ever filmed. Actually, someone please edit that for me. Please. Yeah, that's so good.
Oh, it's so wonderful. Okay, so here it turns out the helicopter didn't give up and it just slowed down considerably for a moment, but Flag evades it by hiding beside a massive sewer pipe.
Oh, quick breather. In the script now, Flag makes a conscious decision between freedom and heading back into town. And also, the now totally evil Dr. Trimble slash Meadows orders Flag to be killed and shot on sight. So I'm going to place the end of Act 2 about here. What do you say?
Yeah, man, we're totally in sync on this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So going back to the dastardly doctor, he rolls up in town and orders the sewers to be sealed off in order to hopefully contain the blob underground. Meanwhile, Meg and the boys are searching for a way out of the waterlogged tunnels at the same time as a group of hazmats are looking to seal the sewers off.
Yeah, in the script, the hazmat team scene has a little more humor injected into it.
Interior sewers night. Three heavily armed soldiers in plastic suits make their way slowly through the tunnels, flashlights probing the steamy darkness, weapons at the ready. They're very keyed up and tense. They know what could be down here, and they don't like it a bit. Soldier number one leans close to the sergeant. Soldier one, hissing in his ear. Sergeant! The sergeant nearly jumps out of his skin. Sergeant, what? Soldier number one, I think I hear something. Sergeant, that's the sound of me having a heart attack, you idiot. Beat, let's see the map. Christ will never find that goddamn valve. Soldier number two, Sarge? Soldier number two points, directing his flashlight beam at the valve wheel, which is on the wall right behind them. Sergeant shoots him a look. All right, let's cut it up and get out of here. So after that, we get a great little moment where Meg and the boys pass some rats floating on debris.
It's like they're on little rafts. It's so adorable.
Mind the rats, Meg warns. What rat? As the rat is sucked underwater, and boomly, it's blob time again. Yeah. Meg ushers the boys up some nearby pipes, but poor Eddie is snatched underwater by the blob, and Meg valiantly dives under to rescue him. They wouldn't kill a kid, would they, Lee?
You don't often get gruesome kid death in movies. It's kind of an
Never
unspoken.
mind, he's dead.
Oh,
Yeah, yep. Despite Meg's heroic efforts, Eddie is now little more than child shaped gruel at this point, as the blob obviously does not discriminate.
it's a wicked scene. Not that I applaud dissolving children as a general rule, but it makes for a striking visual. Plus, if they'll kill a kid, anyone could be on the menu, right? Keeps us on our toes, as there's nothing worse than plot armored characters.
Absolutely. So, as Meg and Kevin ascend the pipes, the massive blob rises slowly from the water in pursuit. Kevin is able to climb through the grate, but alas, Meg can't fit Lee.
She absolutely could fit through that.
Maybe it's just the camera angles making it look bigger than it actually is.
Maybe. Also, have you ever seen that viral video of the weightlifter who suffers a massive explosive prolapse while doing a squat lift?
What the fuck, Lee? No. Where did that come from?
I only bring it up, right, because this is exactly what the blob looks like in this scene. You should Google it quick.
Yeah, I will absolutely be not be doing that. There is no chance in hell. I'm happy to go to my grave without that image burned into my subconscious.
Fair do, mate. Your loss.
Okay, so the aforementioned hazmat squad bumble into the scene and distract the prolaptic predator long enough for Kevin to escape into the street. With no means of escape, Meg leaps into the water and makes for a flooded ramp. It's a tough climb though. Will she make it? It doesn't matter because Flag rocks up just in time and pulls her to safety, and they speed off down the massive subway tunnel.
I mean, I freely admit to knowing nothing about sewers and drainage. The few times I've tried to go into sewer pipes, they were nowhere near the size of this.
Yeah, why were you trying to get into sewers, Lee?
This was obviously back when I was a kid and I was looking for turtles
Turtles?
of the ninja variety.
Ah, I completely understand, dude.
Cowabunga, dude.
Cowabunga indeed. But it's bad news for our heroes as they run into a dead end, forcing Flag to double back. Only now the blob lies between them and freedom. Flag's not giving up though. He guns the engine and, making use of the massive cylindrical nature of the subway tunnel, barrel rolls straight over the damn thing like a wall of death riding Supremo.
Absolutely awesome.
It's amazing. He wipes out afterwards, but the important thing is, for the moment, they've escaped. They run into the only survivor from the hazmat team who leads them to the exit, an open manhole. But when Meadows sees Flag down the ladder, he orders the manhole sealed and parks a goddamn truck on it, Lee.
This guy went from like zero to thunder cunt in like 5 minutes.
It's, it's one hell of a heel turn, isn't it? With all hope lost, our two heroes share some final words, but then Meg notices something in the hazmat's backpack.
Is that a fucking rocket launcher?
It is indeed, my friend. Flag uses it to blow up both the manhole and the truck covering it.
Fuck you, Meadows.
Yeah, Meadows, fuck off. Flag and Meg climb to relative safety, and both the civilians and the hazmat troopers gather to see the cause of the explosion. Flag grabs a gun and trains it on Meadows, but the evil old man's troopers and Deputy Briggs arrive and aim their guns at Flag.
It's a goddamn Mexican standoff. Dude, this film has everything.
Mexican standoff. It looked grim for Flag as he tries to warn the townsfolk they are being lied to. But in a great character moment, where Meadows orders Brian shot, Deputy Briggs turns his gun on the old man instead.
Oh, Briggs.
Yeah, it looks like things could go either way. But while everyone is watching Flag, nobody is keeping an eye on the manhole, and the blob settles the debate by ensnaring and consuming the diabolical doctor.
Fuck yeah, that's one problem out of the way at least.
Yeah, baddie monster saves the day a la Jurassic Park, dude. So with their boss out of the picture, the hazmats decide to scrag the damn thing and collectively open fire into the manhole.
Because if bullets won't kill a giant amorphous blob, what will?
I'll tell you what, Lee, a sensor charge. Short fuse.
I have no idea what that is, but it sounds so badass, so I am totally in right now.
So they drop this into the manhole and boom. Well, more of a bang, really.
Yeah, it wasn't very impressive, was it?
It wasn't that impressive. But at least with the blob destroyed, the people are now safe.
Really?
Of course not, Lee. Of course not. The ground starts to shake, and a colossal Cthulhu like tentacle of blob erupts into the sky and smashes down on on the soldiers.
One poor guy gets literally splatted like a fly. It's hilarious.
It is chaos in the streets as people are running for their lives. Creepy Reverend Mika is preaching prophecies, and a pair of hazmats at least attempt to do something useful and bring a flamethrower to bear on the blob.
Nobody's really tried fire yet, so I appreciate their efforts here.
Sadly, it proves a fruitless endeavor as the blob literally sticks a gooey finger in the weapon's nozzle, causing it to explode and ignite the hapless Reverend at the same time. Meg douses the roasted Reverend with a fire extinguisher and hoses down the attacking blob, which recoils from the extreme cold.
Hello.
Hello, indeed. Megan Briggs herd the townsfolk into the town hall for safety, but the blob is not giving up and relentlessly batters against the crude barricades. Quick cut to Flag, who has commandeered a snowmaker from Moss's garage and is headed to save the day. Yeah, come on, Flag. But we cut between the chaos at the town hall and Flag tearing it up in the snowblower truck. Will he make it in time, Lee?
Oh, there isn't as much intercutting in the script, but it plays out much better on the screen.
Yeah. Poor Briggs gets folded literally in half and he is dragged to his death just when it looks like everybody is about to be served up as a main course. Flag arrives on the scene and douses the blob with the giant snowblower. The titular blob won't just sit by and allow itself to be frozen, though. It charges the truck, and rather than retreat, Flag guns the accelerator and rushes to meet the enemy.
Man, it's a total badass move, but maybe not the brightest idea the guy's ever had.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be as the blob flips the truck like a pancake and the artificial snow tank separates from the truck and skids down the street.
Yeah, man, if that had worked, he could have cashed in his badass for life card. Absolutely.
Well, it didn't, unfortunately. And now, trapped in the truck and enveloped on all sides by the blob, it looks like Brian is about to cash out instead. Hold on, though. Seeing his peril, Meg, come on, Meg, leaves the relative safety of the town hall, grabs an M16 and a satchel charge, and climbs up on the snow tank.
I love it. She's gone full Ripley on us. Total badass.
Get away from him, you bitch! She uses the machine gun to, to attract the blob's attention, pulls the satchel charge, and dives from the truck, only to get her foot caught and flop like a floundering fish.
Come on, guys. You couldn't just let her have this moment. I swear if Flag comes and saves her now, I'm going to be really pissed.
Thankfully, Flag comes and saves her from the truck in the nick of time.
Fuck off.
So you can't have two empowered heroines in a decade, Lee. This was the 80s, remember. So, with our heroes out of the blast zone, the charge ignites and showers the blob with artificial coolant, reducing it to a scattering of gleaming crystals. Meg and Flag get a final embrace as snow falls all around them, and Moss, remember him, calls for a bulldozer so they can haul the frozen fiend into cold storage before it thaws. It's not over yet, though. In what would, in this day and age, be an after credit scene for sure, we rejoin Reverend Mika, now looking somehow even more sinister as he preaches to a congregation about the end of the world. One he will seemingly unleash in the form of his now thawed blob crystals.
Sinister Minister. I knew he was a creep. All right. So hit me with it, bud. What did you think?
Oh, Lee, this was a total banger, dude. I had so much fun watching this. So I was I was having an absolute riot. So I'm probably like stealing your thunder, but this script is so well crafted and the film is such fun and it hits its tonal sweet spot and it just doesn't let up right to the end. So this is like classic 80s soft horror for me. How about you?
I mean, as I'm sure I've alluded to a few times already, I think this is just a really tight, really well constructed script. And it's fascinating how some early examples of a master like Darabont in the horror genre that we can really study and unpack.
Yeah, you can really see the craft that's gone into this, and it totally shows on the screen. So, are there any kind of noteworthy character introductions that you want to mention?
Actually, yes, this one of Dr. Meadows really summed up the character for me. Check it out. One of the figures steps forward and lays a friendly hand on Meg's elbow, helping her up. Dr. Trimble is an elderly gentleman in his 70s with an honest to God twinkle in his eye. He gives them a warm, reassuring smile. How about you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's cool. I mean, I really enjoyed Flag's intro, and I thought it really sells his kind of rebelliousness, and from the get-go sets him apart from the rest of the townsfolk. So have a listen. Brian Flagg eases back into the worn seat of his rebuilt 1958 Indian motorcycle, listening to the distant cheering of the football crowd. Brian is 17, but has a dark, quiet intensity that makes him seem older than his years. He wears a two-tone 40s thrift store jacket over his t-shirt, warm blue jeans, crepe-soled rockabilly shoes, and a tiny metal stud in one ear. Not your standard wardrobe in Morgan City, USA. So Flag is clearly a guy who's watched the Wild One and is kind of channeling his inner Brando, I think. So, what about you? What's your scariest moment of the film?
That's a tough call. I think Fran in the phone booth while Herb's half dissolved corpse is swimming around in the blob outside, staring right at her, is pretty damn creepy. How about you?
Yeah, I thought that had a lot of pathos too. But I thought Eddie shooting up from the sewer water, like half dissolved, was pretty gnarly. So it's not often you get to see a kid go down in a film, and I totally wasn't expecting that. I thought it was a really ballsy move for this movie to kill little Eddie off. Yeah, anything you've learnt from the script?
Well, first and foremost, I think never judge a book by its cover. I mean, this script is fire. It is well crafted, well paced, packed with subtle character beats and excellent setups and payoffs, and two equally capable protagonists. Not to mention the many ways in which it diverts audiences' expectations. If you're looking to learn the craft, you could do a lot worse than studying this text. And how about you, bud?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. I mean, I second all of that. I mean, I was having a great time watching the film, and if you watch enough movies and you start to get a feel of, how the best ones are crafted, and this script is a masterclass in kind of setting up and paying things off. So Flag with the bridge, Meg's dad, Kevin's zipper, Mika with the blob crystals, Moss's ratchets. I mean, it's just amazing, dude. I also thought it's got that kind of ineffable 80s movie thing going on, where it's just, the right side of cheese. I thought it was so fantastic. I think we should also give, massive shouts out to the filmmakers too. So Chuck Russell's direction is wonderful, and the lighting by Mark Irwin. I mean, you should go and check this guy's filmography if you want to be impressed by a career. Scream is one of his films. Lee. I don't know if you knew
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yeah. So, and obviously, the production design, the special effects team, they are just killing it, dude. So, big shout out. I had such a great time, man. Yeah. Thanks for bringing this one to my attention.
You're welcome, dude.
So, what's on the agenda for next time, Lee?
Well, we will be returning bigger and better than ever with season two of the Script to Screen podcast.
Yeah, I can't believe we're closing on season one already, bud.
I know, man, I know it has flown by, but rest assured, we will be back with all new breakdowns of some classic horror movies as well as our first foray into television.
Yeah, we'll be taking some feedback on we've received over the course of season one in order to make Script to Screen better and badder than ever. In season two, we'll be applying the lessons we've learned from over these past few months and hopefully bringing you more of what you love and less of what you don't.
Cannot wait, my man. I cannot wait. And let me just say what a pleasure it has been hanging out with you these past 10 weeks and how excited I am for our next run. Also, a genuine heartfelt thanks to those of you who have tuned in over the weeks. Thank you for putting up with my inane rantings. And whether you loved us or hated us, I appreciate you giving us a chance. And please share the word far and wide. It all helps. And we are so grateful for all of your support.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, everyone. It's been such a pleasure, Lee, and it's been so wonderful to hear the feedback that we've had. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to season two. So if you enjoyed the podcast, please hit like and subscribe and check out our socials. And if you're feeling very generous, please rate the show and leave hopefully a wonderfully positive review on your podcast venue of choice, as it will really, really help us reach new people. So until next time, do take care.
Keep on writing those scares, folks.